I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Welcome back to the show. My name's Mark Nixon. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to start things off with some laughs. RPN has created the most viral and epic video yet. Plus, Donald Trump issues his newest threat to Canada, which is causing the internet to explode. Mark Carney's at the WEF and has just issued a speech. It's a carbon copy from his speech during the election campaign. One word, rupture. Justin Trudeau's also at the WEF, and he doesn't have any security because he's no longer prime minister. He's there with Katy Perry, and he was bombarded by journalists. Can't wait to show you this one and much more. I haven't posted any videos lately. I've been quite busy. We are working on the absolute biggest, never happened before in Canada in history, where the biggest independent media content creators are coming together and throwing a massive party in Calgary. This is going to be huge. More details are going to be coming, and of course, I'm going to share those details with all of you. I can't wait to meet many of you if you're in Calgary in just a week and a half. Let's get into this report. We're going to start today's show off with some laughs. RPN is going mega viral with his memes. I mean, he's doing such a great job. And look at this. I actually made it in the audience. And you're also going to notice that there's other content creators in the crowd for this wrestling match. This is Razor G. Let's go.
Shut up, everyone! Listen up, Canadians! Me and my man here, Razor Z, has something to tell you. Ain't that right, Brother Z? That's right, man. The Markamania and Razor Z has decided it's time to form a new world order. And the best part, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, look who it is. It's Yin and frickin' Yang. But I don't see a Yin in sight, just two Yangs yanging around. Just kidding, boys. I just wanted to congratulate you on your New World Order deal.
Thanks, Pierre 316. We need more floor crossers. Would you like to join us?
Here's your answer.
It's important that we have a sense of humor and laughter in these times. This part was my favorite. Oh man, that was so good. Let's move on to the WEF. Mark Carney has landed in Davos. The first person that Mark Carney meets at the World Economic Forum is Emmanuel Macron. And there is a lot of chatter going on online on why Macron is wearing sunglasses. You could only imagine what people are saying. First, we're going to hear from Michael Kovrig, a Canadian geopolitical advisor that was detained in China for over 1,000 days. This detainment brought international attention, and this is what caused the broader diplomatic standoff between Canada and China. He is a great person to hear from when it comes to Canada-China relationship.
During meetings with the president and other top officials in China, where he even sort of surmised about a new world order. And that certainly caught the attention of some people in the U.S., but also many people in Canada. What did you make of that?
I thought that was a very worrisome way to express things, frankly. Look, diplomacy is necessary. Likewise, Mark Carney standing and grinning when shaking Xi Jinping's hand. That's not very comfortable for someone like me to see. Diplomacy is necessary. Grinning is optional, and looking like a supplicant is undignified. That's not a good look. So the optics could have been better. And talking about a refreshed strategic partnership while intoning about a new world order while you're sitting in a meeting room with the Chinese Communist Party really carries some very Orwellian overtones. And I think it risks, rather than trying to acknowledge realities, actually endorsing and supporting narratives that are deeply problematic and dangerous, right? It's a deeply unsettling message, and it's a very dangerous game.
I completely agree with Michael Kovrig. Him smiling and saying, new world order, super slow like that, was terrifying to hear, regardless of what it means. Just the optics is terrifying. First, we're going to take a look at Mark Carney's speech, which is just over a minute long, regarding the United States and his thoughts. Then I'm going to take you to Lutnick.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful, and American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
There you have it. Mark Carney calls it a rupture, and there's no going back. The United States, which was once our friend for 150 years, he says are no longer going to be our #1 trading partner. We're moving away from this whole thing, and it's all their fault. What about China? Because they also imposed all these tariffs on Canada. We're going to move over to Lutnick now.
Okay. We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. I don't know what to say here, but we're going to have to recap what he said because there was some gold nuggets in his speech here. Let's move to the 1 minute mark right around here. And he says, this is the most important thing that he said, and it is so revealing.
Offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty.
Yeah, so during the pandemic, they ran out of medicine, they ran out of masks, they ran out of everything. And this was a wake-up call for the world saying, if we rely on other countries, for example, China withhold medicine to the United States, withheld masks and other supplies to the United States. And the United States was like, holy, I thought we had a global order that everybody was going to be able to share everything regardless of what's happening around the world. But they realized that people were hoarding all of the things. And it's like, wow, we need to take back control over our medicine and all of the other things. And that's why the U.S. is doing what it's doing. And I believe, based on what he just said here, this was a wake-up call for the United States. And they want to know who their best friends are around the world. And this whole thing is a test. And guess who's failing the test? He said right here, listen to what he says.
On any other nation, and if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies.
Best ally. Do you think that Canada is the absolute best ally based on what we've done? I know that the U.S. did all sorts of things to us, bully us, increase tariffs on us, and help Mark Carney get elected during the election, threatening annexation. That's not really friendly of them. But at the same time, what we've done in return is retaliatory tariffs, elbows up, which is now elbows down. And we've run directly to China. That's right. And we're telling Europe to go to China as well. Is this the number one ally that the U.S. is referring to? I think this is a test. And Canada is failing the test. My next statement is all speculation, but Trump's newest threat this morning on his Truth Social was this map of the United States, which covered all of North America except for Mexico, but Canada, Greenland. What is Trump doing? Imagine he gets Greenland, then he's secured Greenland, and he looks at Canada and sees that we're forming economic ties with China, and that gives him a reason to look at us as a threat and get that 51st state that he's been talking about for a long time. That's just a thought. I have no idea what he's doing. What's your thought on what Donald Trump is up to? Leave a comment. Let's go back to Mark Carney. He talks about protecting the North and basically deterring the United States from Greenland.
And you talked about the need not to put the sign in the window anymore, to pretend that things are still the same. Do you think, to put it directly, that the NATO alliance is still doing that, still pretending it's the old transatlantic partnership, when it's really kind of going?
Well,
I think clearly NATO is experiencing a test right now, and the first response to that test has to be to respond in a way that ensures the security of the Arctic in a robust way for all possibilities. This is actually a point that we have been making in recent years. It's a point that I made at the NATO summit back in June, which seemed like a pledging summit, but also was to get NATO policies in the right direction. So I think in the immediate term, one of the imperatives is to reinforce things that Canada is doing, Nordic-Baltic 8 are doing, the UK are doing, other NATO partners, France included, in a comprehensive way that provides much greater security in the Arctic. This is the test, and so I wouldn't say the NATO sign stays in the window, but we've got to meet the moment of that.
Is he trying to get all of the WEF friends to go and secure the Arctic against who? Russia? Or is it to deter the United States? I'll leave that to your interpretation. Here is basically the most important part about what Mark Carney said at the World Economic Forum. The United States represents almost 80% of all our trade in Canada. We can't pivot overnight. It will take decades to form new relationships with other countries in order to diversify our trade. But check out what Mark Carney says here.
Isn't Canada almost uniquely vulnerable to pressure because of the extent of your trade dependence on the United States?
Well, the proof is that we have been able to withstand the pressure, and there has been considerable pressure. I'll give you a couple of facts. We've actually created more jobs since the tariffs were put on than the United States in absolute number. Our economy is growing at the second fastest rate within the G7. That's not there. There are pockets of extreme pressure without question in Canada, but headline.
I don't know about. Our economy in the last second quarter is negative. So I don't know what he's talking about. The US is close to 5% GDP growth, but Canada is not doing so hot. So I don't know where his statistics are coming from.
We're reacting. The second thing, and it's a fundamental point, is the recognition that we can give ourselves far more than any foreign country can take away. There's lots of efficiencies in having one Canadian market.
We have yet to have one Canadian market. We're still fractured in the provinces. They've tried to work together to remove all the barriers, but we have yet to see all the barriers removed. He's already been prime minister for almost a year. We're still not one Canadian economy. And no, we can't be our own very best customer. Currently, we don't even have a pipeline that goes from Alberta to the east. The East Coast is buying oil from the other side of the planet. We could be using Canadian oil and gas, but we're not. We're buying it from other places around the world. We are not our own best customer.
The $1 trillion of domestic investment and building these partnerships abroad.
The $1 trillion in domestic investment, that is speculation. And he's also planning on spending a $500 billion over the next 5 years in debt. Yeah, and we don't know if any of this stuff is going to pan out for Canada.
All of which are bigger returns than what's been lost. That's not to say we would rather not lose it, but we can withstand the pressure, and we are.
If we lost the United States tomorrow, and Donald Trump is probably watching Mark Carney's speech here, 20% of our GDP is tied to U.S. trade. Canada would literally cease to exist. That's why before, when Justin Trudeau went down to Mar-a-Lago and he said, if you impose tariffs on our auto industry and against Canada, we will literally cease to exist. And that's when the 51st state comment came from. He's like, if you're going to rip us off by the tune of $200 billion, you should just become the 51st state. So no, we can't just overnight. So if we lost the United States and the USMCA is completely torn up, Canada is not going to be in a depression. Canada is going to be broken.
I was interested that you said basically the old world's not coming back. So you're not seeing this as a period where you just have to get through and normalcy will return.
I think that is our view.
and we regret it, but we're not going to sit around and mourn it. We're acting.
He is so excited to have this new world order. He doesn't want to fix things with the United States. He wants to form this new world order with Europe and China because his plan is net zero. And he believes if he goes to China and gets all that technology and cozy up with Beijing, that he's going to be able to get this net zero thing because all of his assets and Brookfield is in the renewable space. The United States have walked away from the Paris Accord. They're not doing what Mark Carney's vision is. And like I said, cozying up with Beijing might blow up in our faces.
And we're acting in a way, both that's in our interests, but we believe in a way with others that's building imperfectly in steps a new system. I'll give you one example and hand back, which is we are members of trade agreements that comprise already 1.4 billion people around the world. So we have the most extensive network. We are trying with others to bring some of those networks together. The most prominent example is the Trans-Pacific Partnership in the EU, acting as a bridge. It's not a direct benefit for Canada, but it is a benefit for Canada that these groups come together. Ngozi is here, consistent with the WTO rules, both of which are. And in that way, we're building back out amongst willing partners.
There you have it. He just said it. He wants the EU to join China and Canada to join China to have this new world order. So here's Emmanuel Macron saying that China is open for business. You can't make any of this stuff up.
China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe in some key sectors to contribute to our growth, to transfer some technologies, and not just to export towards Europe some devices or products which sometimes don't have the same standards or are much more subsidized as the one being produced in Europe.
So there you and the reason that Europe and Canada is moving to China is because China has the green technology. If it weren't for China's green tech, which they're leading the world with green tech, Europe and Canada would be joining the United States. The United States is lowering their emissions, but their plan is not to follow the World Economic Forum. I can't wait to cover Donald Trump's speech in detail when he goes to the World Economic Forum. He's not there yet. He sent Lutnick and other people to the World Economic Forum in advance. Here we have Mark Carney talk about Greenland. And of course, he has to bring some more hockey analogy.
On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic Baltic 8, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar, in submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground. Boots on the ice.
Boots on the ice. Are you kidding me? And we don't have any of these submarines and planes that he was talking about. In the future, that's what we're investing in, but that's going to take years to get. Mark Carney was called out as a WEF globalist. Check out his response or non-response.
President Trump and a lot of people who agree with him condemn globalism a lot. And I suspect, you would be the kind of epitome of a globalist. You worked for Goldman Sachs, I believe. You were a central banker. You're comfortable and lived in several countries. Is globalism, first of all, is it a thing? And is it over?
I think, well, look, understanding how the world works, having an appreciation for other cultures, understanding the connections, and being able to, or at least appreciating ways that how we connect, whether it's through technology, trade, and
yeah, he didn't answer that question. He just word salad from Mark Carney, but we already knew that's all he gives when he gets cornered. He's just going to give us a word salad. There's no better person than word salad than the next person. Justin Trudeau. And here's Justin Trudeau with Katy Perry. And guess who is at the far right? Oh yeah, Ezra Levant is talking to Justin Trudeau.
What do you make of the Federal Court of Appeal upholding the ruling that your martial law was illegal? They said you violated...
It's good to see you, Ezra.
Oh, it's so good to see ya, Ezra. The narcissist speaks, and we knew he would give such a word salad response. Ezra Levant's going to have a full interview, at least whatever Justin Trudeau says. He's going to release it on Rebel News, and I look forward to providing you guys that interview. That's it for today's report. I can't wait to cover more of the World Economic Forum. Donald Trump is heading to the World Economic Forum. I'm going to have lots of clips of Donald Trump. But what do you think about Mark Carney and Europe moving away from the United States and forming strengthening ties with China? This is the new world order they're describing. And how is that going to go for the United States? We're going to hear from Donald Trump coming up. I'll see you on the next report.
This